Hi everyone. This week we know that we have 3 options for making the quarter square triangles that we're going to need for the quilt. One of the options is to use the cupcake mix recipe number 2. There are several different cupcake mix recipes, but number 2 is definitely the one we want for this week's clue. They're really fun, fast and easy. All you do is follow the arrows on the paper and you will get perfect half square triangles that we will then take the next step in turning them into quarter square triangles. There's no room for error because it's being done with this guide, and they turn out just perfectly. So what we do is open our booklet, we take one out, and it's a very simple process. We're going to match 2 of our fabrics together, and I'm going to match my opposites. In this clue, it doesn't matter what these finish to. If you have your A and your D matched, or your B and your C. I know there are some, last week it was kind of specific. This week, not at all. Does not matter how they match up, we're just making them. All we need to do is make them and get them accomplished. Whatever fabric combination they have works. So we're gonna pin, and that's how we start. I'm gonna take this to my sewing machine now, and we will keep moving through this. Okay, so this little square has a starting point right here, and that's where I'm gonna begin. Place that right under my needle and line it up. And I am going to follow right along where the arrows tell me to go. Turn my angle here. Pick my bring my needle up, spin this guy around, start again. Okay, we're just following this all the way around the entire grid. And I will be right back when I am done. I'm going to show you that we're going to cut them out. I'll be right back. I have done all the sewing, and you can see here that that one's kind of dark. This one's maybe better. You can see the lines where my paper template has instructed me to sew. So now I'm going to trim this, and I can show you how that's done. There are dashes that indicate where to stitch and straight lines indicating where to cut. So I'm gonna just cut them apart. And one more cut to give me that quarter square, or that, I'm sorry, half square triangle. Okay, so we'll get all of these cut all the way out, but I'm just going to show you that. I'm going to perforate this side off. Take this side out. And now when I iron this, it's perfect. It's going to be a perfect half square triangle for me to work with. And it took me a couple minutes, which it takes quite a bit longer, as we know, to make them matching one at a time. So this paper template is going to give me 2, 4, 6, 8 of them really, really fast. Let me finish trimming these, ironing them, and I will show you our next step. 2 thoughts I had while I was doing my pressing. One, make sure you reduce your stitch length when you are making these little guys, because when you get your stitch length nice and small, they perforate really, really well. So reduce your stitch length. And the other recommendation is to press one direction. That way, when you are ready to make your your quarter square triangles, your seams will nest just perfectly, and you'll be able to feel that as you're laying them together. The reason I really like these little Miss Rosie's paper piecing project papers are because these little triangles start to get kind of small. And I know that our hands just don't work like they used to, do they? So it just works out really well to just have the exact precise piecing done kind of for you. So I'm marking my line. I like how this Sharpie is. It's seen better days, hasn't it? All right, let's use a pen. So I'm gonna mark my line. And another thing that I'm just showing you is that, look, see this? Not a big deal. We are going to sew this together and cut them apart, and then we're gonna square them up. And this little bit of difference is not going to make or break the success of your final little block. So no stress there. We've got this, and we're doing a great job so far. The beauty, as I mentioned before, these don't need a specific combination. They are little accent pieces in the quilt, so they don't eventually match into something else. We just want to get them accomplished and put them into our final project. So if you're fussy, you feel free to specifically place your AC, your BD, however, whatever combination you prefer. But if you're not, Scrappy's gonna get the job done, and it's gonna be just as cute as the next quilt. Okay, I'm gonna sew this and come back and show you. Okay, look how cute these guys are. They're getting smaller, but that's okay. We know what to do about that. So I have ironed my seam open. You can spin your seam, you can iron to whatever direction you please. It doesn't make a difference as it goes into our final project. And I'm gonna show you now, we're gonna trim these to 1.5 inches. So I'm gonna use my diagonal line on my ruler. Let's see if you can show you that. So there's a 45-degree line on my ruler, and then I'm gonna use, obviously, the 1.5 inches. So I need my 3/4 of an inch mark. That's halfway between 1.5 inches. And I'm gonna come across right at 1 inch, right at 3/4 of an inch. So there's 3/4 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch right here. And I'm gonna hit that center point of my quarter square triangle. So right here is 3/4 down, 3/4 over, and on my 45-degree line. And look, we have plenty of space for trimming. So we're gonna take off one side, we're gonna spin it around, and now I can just go ahead and use my 1.5 inches because I got it initially measured going the opposite way. And as much as these little guys seem like a lot of work, they are perfect and so cute. And when you are all done, these are going to be precious in your quilt. So you have, as I mentioned, the option to use Miss Rosie. You can also piece them all on your own by just starting out with 2.5 inch squares, drawing your line on the diagonals, and making them yourself. So you're just going to keep going from step 1 all the way to now. We're gonna sew 1/4 of an inch off of each side, open them up, pair them again, and keep going. They do get small because look, we start out that big and we get this small in the end. So, but as you can see, there's room for squaring up. So your sewing doesn't have to be flawless. And also, Miss Rosie does kind of sweeten the deal just that tiny little bit. It just speeds you through part of your process and helps you know that you've got your lines really, really straight. It sets you up for success. If you're not a fussy little sewer like this, you don't want to get your pieces quite this small, then you go ahead and trim your 2.5 inches or your initial 5-inch squares that I recommended going to 2.5. Just trim them to 1.5 inches and call it good. Use 1.5 inch square. So once you've trimmed these, once you've trimmed your 5-inch squares down, you'll have a ton of them. Just use one of these instead of one of these in the quilt, and skip that detailed piecing if you want to. And your quilt will still turn out to be just as cute as can be. If you need me, I'm here for you. Let me know, give me a call, and otherwise, happy sewing, everyone.